I think we've been very wrong about the reasons for going to college. The college experience is often touted as an opportunity for students to learn new things, meet new people, and start to get to know the world on their own terms. But in my experience, college is often dictated by the goal of becoming qualified for a job. Rarely are students' choices guided simply by what they love, by what they lose themselves in, by what brings them intellectual joy. No doubt, some students pursue their passions. And if your passion is something in the hard sciences or technology, then you're lucky that society acknowledges the value of that work in the form of stable jobs and living wages. But I imagine that many of you have an eye on med school while harboring a passion for languages, or are majoring in business while spending your free time writing poetry, or even planning to become a school teacher, although you're really fascinated by the artwork of Jean-Michel Basquiat. And it's true, we have good reason to be practical. Our society is full of pitfalls that might at any moment leave us uninsured, unemployed, and unprotected. But I think we have to consider a worse alternative. If we squander the moments in which we can invest in our passions and what brings us pleasure, we might end up with a well-paying job, but without a desire to go to work or moments of inspiration in our day-to-day lives. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the ripple effects of doing what you love, how it will enrich the life ahead of you, and how, in fact, it will improve the fields to which you devote yourself for those that come after you. Here's my story. I started playing the violin as a child, and for a long time, I wanted to be a professional musician. I took a year off between high school and college to do nothing but practice, and I started my college degree at a music conservatory. However, I realized pretty quickly that I was not likely to be good enough to become a soloist, and that joining an orchestra was not really for me. And so I did what I thought was practical. I changed schools and became a double major in music and political science. I spent 4 years building my CV for law school, and I started to prep for the LSATs. However, in my advanced political theory courses, I began to notice that the authors we studied often talked about music, noting its importance to individuals and to community building. And I found myself confronted with evidence from some of the most well-known political thinkers that music was an important human endeavor, not just an enjoyable pastime. The summer before my last year of college, I was offered an internship in the office of then Vice President Joe Biden. When I turned it down to take a course on symphonic music, I realized I had made a decision with serious ripple effects. Given the ubiquity of the useless art history degree, students who follow a path into the humanities often do so to the dismay of their parents and the incredulity of their more pragmatic peers. But it is only fairly recently that these disciplines have come to be viewed as auxiliary, nice if you have the time and money to pursue them, but not essential. In the ancient world, for instance, music was one of 4 central subjects, a key component of the educational curriculum. The role of music was emphasized in the performance of Greek tragedies, which were accompanied by a chorus, and the audience for these performances sat in the same seats in the city's amphitheater that they would for a political gathering, demonstrating the link between the artistic experiences we enjoy together and how our cooperation on socio-political issues fit. How different might our contemporary political discourse look if we were not fractured by niche news outlets, but rather regularly came together to share the experience of artistic displays? The most famous figures of the Renaissance, Galileo, Da Vinci, Descartes, all excelled in engineering and science, as well as music and the arts. Even the poorest homes were once outfitted with a piano, and music was the first means of social mobility in an era that predated such a concept. The arts have served as a basis for solidarity building and fortitude in the face of adversity for countless communities, particularly those burdened by the damaging legacies of oppression and exploitation. There are plenty of practical reasons to study subjects in the humanities, as this history shows. The work of great artists, including writers and philosophers, can help us better understand one another, making us more self-aware and more productive as members of a team. Studying quite literally humanity can benefit the practice of medicine, politics, even business, all of which depend on a sensitive understanding of the human condition. Effective salespeople not only identify a customer's individual needs, but understand how best to approach different personalities. Politicians mobilize communities and motivate them to the polls, not only with good ideas, but through a convincing and empathetic delivery. And the cadence and rhythm of religious sermons in mosques, synagogues, and churches are carefully delivered to stir and inspire. The Roman philosopher Quintilian says as much when he argues that in order to be a good speaker, be that as a salesman, politician, preacher, or lawyer, you must understand the ways in which music can move your audience and employ these devices when you communicate. Knowing and understanding the humanistic disciplines can teach us about the past in order to better prepare us for our future by creating a version of history that is not buried in dense prose and lists of forgettable dates. These disciplines breathe life into the past and demonstrate in alternative ways histories we should know, if for no other reason than to learn from them. The study of the humanities promotes creativity and critical thinking by asking its students to go beyond memorizing a formula or seeking the single correct answer. It teaches us to contemplate beauty, question communal assumptions, and develop entirely new approaches to thinking about what is possible. All of these are practical reasons why investing in a subject that you love, but is not necessarily lucrative, is important. Not only do these subjects improve our skills in other fields, but they have been recognized as doing so for centuries. I do not wish to dismiss the important question of job security and employability. I'm surrounded by stories of colleagues who find themselves working as contingent faculty, struggling to make ends meet. And I know word of a precarious existence in these disciplines travels fast when many of my students express concern over the practicality of the choice to study a subject like music. What is more troubling to me, however, is the statistics that show humanities to be the lowest enrolled subjects among students at public colleges and historically Black colleges and universities. I am most troubled by the idea that the social structures which already disenfranchise certain groups through systems built on white supremacy have limited the access of these same groups to the study of humanity out of a concern for financial security. The idea that students who might want to study their passion cannot afford to is criminal. And the fact that these concerns disproportionately plague first-generation college students, students from working class backgrounds, immigrants, and students of color is unspeakable. Today, I teach music history at Hunter College to students, many of whom belong to one or more of the groups I just mentioned. From my classroom experiences as a student and a teacher, my CUNY students, my Hunter students, are the most creative and brilliant I've encountered. Their class discussions zero in on important details and crucial connections. Their original research projects are clever and creative, and all of this is born from their experiences that much of the academy has little or no familiarity with. I'll give you an example. My first semester teaching at Hunter, I taught the course on medieval and Renaissance music. Not the easiest course to get students excited about, given its distance from our presence and its unusual sound world. I was trying to explain a medieval form of composition called the motet, the concept which takes a pre-existing song and adds new lyrics atop all or part of the original, is tricky, and the result can sound bizarre, particularly with multiple voices singing different words at once. I worked out a whole analogy to illustrate the concept when one of my students just said, "It's like sampling." And he was right. Simple, effective. I've never taught the motet the same way since. In my general introduction to music history, a course for students who are not majoring in music, students receive a rapid fire overview of classical music of the last 2,000 years. One of the composers we discuss is Richard Wagner, who changed the genre of German and arguably all opera with his 19th century compositions. The hiccup is that the man was a vile anti-Semite who not only said, but published despicable commentary on Jews and Jewish musicians. I asked students to consider if we can separate the art from the artist. And every time I've taught this course, at least one person compares Wagner to R. Kelly or Michael Jackson or Harvey Weinstein. What results is a discussion that teaches us all about both Wagner as well as cancel culture in our own society. And the reluctance of all students, particularly those with financial concerns, to study humanities not only robs them of these enhanced perspectives on their own lives, but it also robs us, society at large, of their insights and experiences, which much of academia is sorely lacking. In addition to introductory courses and the music history sequence, I also teach a course on music research. In this class, I ask students to develop their own research topic in the hopes that they will find some enjoyment in the research process. And the topics that have crossed my desk are groundbreaking. Sonic and ideological connections between J-pop and the musical nationalism of the Romantic era, readings of composers and performers through psychological lenses that fundamentally indict our culture of ableism, and completely original research, including personal interviews and new methodologies of Latin and Caribbean genres that have been the result when a student can't find any scholarship on the topic they are interested in. Not only does scholarship in higher education desperately need these perspectives to survive and thrive, I would like to think that all these instances brought challenge, excitement, and satisfaction to the students they involved. Fundamentally, that is what it's about. The study of those things that bring us joy, comfort, and insight should be central, not on the periphery of our experience, subordinate to making money. I encourage you to resist the urge to be practical. Investing even some of your college career in what you love, or in finding out what you love if you don't know yet, can make a huge difference throughout your life. Unlike even the most secure jobs, the knowledge and pleasure you might derive from studying Japanese, for instance, can never be taken away from you. Time spent cultivating your passions will never be time misspent. The ripple effects of my own journey have been tremendous. I've traveled the world, I've met incredible individuals who have expanded my horizons, but most importantly, I have been able to contemplate deeply a subject that I love, and I've had the opportunity to share that subject with some of the best students out there. Making the impractical choice to study music history over going to law school was absolutely the right decision for me. And I'm assured of that choice when my friends who did study law or business discover in their 30s that their jobs don't make them happy. And worse, they're not sure what does. Consider the following. What thing or activity do you lose yourself in? What do you choose to do for yourself? And finally, how will doing that enrich you, your community, and the wider world? Your choices about how you spend your time and talents will have far-reaching ripple effects. It is certainly never too late to focus your time and efforts on what brings you joy, but college is one of those baked-in moments. Take this time now to invest in what you enjoy, what piques your interest, and what you would spend the rest of your life doing if there were no other considerations. And then do that. White House internship be damned.